Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday morning show where ASI's most outspoken editors talk promo products. I'm Andy Cohen, editor of Counselor Magazine, and we have a great show planned for you today. We're going to be talking about creative ways to save money for your business. So if you have any questions on how to cut down expenses or save money in your business operations, give us a ring today at 215-953-4979, and we'd be happy to take your questions. Joining me in the studio here today is a merry band of folks. A merry band of folks who are not in Dallas.
Thank God.
Yeah.
There it is.
That's the sentiment. That enthusiasm
That's
coming
the sentiment.
across.
The weather there is probably better than it is here.
It's really nice to be here at the office when everyone's gone.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say.
You can get so much done.
Really
for
nice.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is pleasant, but we miss you all if you're listening. Kathy Houston, how are you today?
I'm good. I
Yeah?
got a good parking space because nobody's here.
Wow. Okay.
And the hits just keep on coming.
Wow, there it is. Did you take one of those upfront spots that don't have your name on it?
She parked in the
with somebody-
expected
Like
mother
employee
spot.
of the year.
Nice. Michelle Bell.
Kathy, there must be some mistake.
Kathy will go out at lunch and her car will be towed. Michelle Bell,
Yes.
how are you today?
I'm good. I hate the cold.
You
I
hate
it.
the cold, then this would not be the time of year for you.
I hate it. You know what? I do better when it's the whipping wind
Oh,
that
my
I cannot
God, that was
tolerate.
horrible.
So as
That's what
long as there's no
cuts
wind,
through
I
you.
do much better. But the wind yesterday was just brutal.
It was awful.
So my car was completely frozen over
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I got the windows defrosted and de-iced, but I didn't get everything. So I tried to put gas in my car this morning. The gas tank door was frozen.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
I mean, what the hell?
It's just a nice shellacking
Yeah.
of ice.
You need a husband,
I
Andy.
used-
Steve defrosted my car.
Interesting. I didn't have anybody at home doing that for me. I used a key to pry it open. Chris Ruvo, you're joining us here today. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm barely over the Super Bowl
Yeah,
Aw.
we've
catastrophe.
been
that
Yeah,
like
was
everyone,
happening.
we've been talking about that a lot here, and
Yeah.
still kind of in shock that the Patriots were gifted another Super Bowl. But
I mean,
what are you
if
gonna
we
do?
made decisions in our jobs like they make decisions in theirs, I'm not sure we'd have that.
But I have a new favorite. What's his name?
Gronkowski.
I love him.
Oh, I love him too.
He's a degenerate.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
he's
love
fantastic.
really stupid big guys.
Who
Yeah.
are funny and don't
Who
give a
doesn't?
crap. Yeah.
He had that. He used to wear that shirt. It said, "Sorry, I'm not sorry for partying." I thought that was the greatest shirt in the history
See,
of the world.
that's funny.
I do like that.
It was a
sentiment. I
green
do like
neon
that.
tank top too to really add to it.
Green,
Awesome.
It's quite the
Yeah.
sight. Wow, he can pull it off.
I feel a little bit better about a Boston area team winning because he's on it. I'll say that.
and Michelle does too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him, and I was like, who is this fabulous mess?
Very nice. All right, Michelle, what else is on tap for today's show?
Our friend Leighton Lee from ETS Express, who's our reigning product safety expert, is going to talk about something a little different this morning involving intellectual property and knocking off logos, which I know is a big deal. I think Alibaba just got taken to task for something that they were involved in with that. Kathy's going to talk about motivating millennial staffers. Chris Ruvo is going to talk about pumping up your SEO.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Oh yeah.
So Chris does every day.
It's nothing
Yeah.
untoward. It's nothing untoward.
Chris again is going to talk about marketing myths that make young buyers hate a brand, and Kathy's going to talk about the biggest mistakes you can make as a leader, and also we have our favorite things. But first we have the news, Andy, with you in under a minute.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We begin this morning with good news for the ad specialty market. A new report from ASI shows that distributors recorded $21.5 billion in sales in 2014, a new record high for any single year. Distributors increased their revenues by 5.1% in 2014, and the Counselor Confidence Index currently sits at an all-time high as well. Industry financial news now. The owners of the Magnet Group have formed an equity company to pursue further acquisitions. TMG Capital, which is the sole owner of the Magnet Group and closed on a deal last year to partner with Castelli North America, says it expects to close 2 to 3 more supplier acquisitions in the promo products market in 2015. Top 40 distributor news now. 4imprint's North American division grew its sales by 28% in the fourth quarter and by 25% for full year 2014. The company's total annual sales now are nearly $400 million. Apparel market news now. Hanes Brands announced 2014 sales of $5.32 billion, a 15% rise over revenues in 2013. The firm's full-year operating profit increased by 28%, and its fourth quarter sales reached $1.52 billion, which was an 18% year-over-year rise. And finally, in Promogram today, check out Counselor's special video coverage of Wing Bowl 23. That's right, people. I said
Lauren was there, right?
Wing Bowl. Lauren, how was it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Thumbs. Oh.
She's thumbs down.
I think it is a distinctly Philly event in that it is loud and sloppy and weird and funny and
much like the
hilarious.
city itself.
Yeah. It's a very
much like
Philly.
the editorial department.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but a male-oriented event for the most part, right? Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah.
what I hear. And that's why we send Joe every.
Well, they're his
every year.
people. He calls them the
Unfortunately, he
Yahoos.
took Lauren along this time. I don't understand that.
He always says that's his demographic, the Yahoos and the nose pickers.
That's our Joe Haley.
He knows his audience, that's for sure.
Well, check out coverage of that. There were plenty of promotional products there that Joe and Lauren were checking out and got video coverage of, so check out that and more in Counselor Promogram today. All right, we're going to go to the phones right now where we have Leighton Lee waiting for our product safety minute of the week. And Leighton, I understand you're talking about intellectual property today.
I am. I'm putting a different hat on today. Excuse me.
Does it
And
fit?
Speaking of hats, I have a connection in our industry that has about 50,000 Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl champ baseball caps.
Oh, boy.
That's unfortunate.
It is. I'm so sad. That was that last minute and 40 seconds turned my stomach. Anyways, that's another story. Today's story is about protecting against trademark infringement fiascos, and I'll tell you why. Last week, a couple of our art department people, there are people that make the proofs and virtuals and stuff for our customers, and they noticed something. A couple of orders are coming in from one of our big clients, and one of them had the interlocking C's of the Chanel logo, where the one C is going to the left and the other C is going to the right, and they're interlocking.
Michelle knows all about it.
Yes.
And then another order had the LV, Louis Vuitton
Oh,
logo.
another one Michelle happens to know pretty well.
And so our art department said these are not mugs to promote the owners, the brands, Chanel or LVMH. And they had some other verbiage on the mugs in the artwork. And the art person asked me, should we print these? And I go, can you go back to the customer and ask them if they have the licenses to reproduce these logos? And she did. And the client comes back with an email saying, no, is there a problem?
Oops.
And so I responded to the customer, and I said, listen, it's all of our jobs in our industry to protect the trademarks of third parties. And the reason being is, one, we want to protect those big brands that feed our industry. Number two, we want to avoid our end buyers and our distributors and supplier friends from getting sued for trademark infringement. Now, these logos that we all are so familiar with, especially Michelle, we know that they're protected by law. They're registered with the trademark offices, not only in our country, but in Canada and all throughout the countries of the EU and Asia. They're worldwide registered trademarks. And anybody that steps on their rights, the rights of these companies, are most likely going to get a very nasty letter. We call it a cease and desist letter, meaning that you are hereby ordered to destroy all the goods, stop reproducing these products, give us all the accounting figures of how many units you sold of this offending product, how much you charge for them, how much your profits are, and we're going to sue you for all your damages and so forth. So it's really messy. You don't want to get involved. I'm kind of upset that our big client, who have a lot of safeguards within their organization, allow these to get through. And so for the smaller distributors and suppliers out there who may not have a legal team or internal review processes in place, these things can slip through, and they can get you in a lot of trouble. So the tip of the day is really keep an eye out for these logos that belong to third parties, legitimate third parties, that may be misused or unintentionally used in a wrong way that would violate the trademark rights of the rightful parties. So you folks stay warm and safe, and we will talk to you next week. And if anybody wants some Seattle Seahawks champion, let me know.
Very good. All right, Leighton, thanks for the call and for the advice. All right, we're going to get ready to take your calls right now. Michelle, you have something?
I have a question. Is it possible that this Gronkowski person has two brothers who are also football
Yes.
players?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's more of them?
There's a
There's
crew.
three of them.
There's a crew.
I just, not that I wasn't listening to Leighton because he's fabulous and riveting, but I
Are you
was-
Googling during the show?
He's 26 and he's single. I'm just saying.
She's a little gonk.
We could
gonk distract.
we could turn
Gonk
the show
distracted.
into a matchmaking.
Also,
don't
apparently,
we?
did he dance the other night with Robert Kraft with a bottle of Patron?
Yes.
Is this
That
possible?
I did not hear, but I would believe it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds highly
He
in
dances
character.
a lot.
for him. Yeah.
Wow, I'm not sure where to go from here, so we're just
I didn't know
gonna
there was
go-
three of them. I didn't know there was three.
We're going to go to the phones where we're going to
Check
take
out
your calls.
ASICentral.com for shortly pictures of Rob Gronkowski. Live from Michelle Blill's blog.
We are getting ready to take your calls about how to cut costs and save money for your business. So if you have any questions about that or about Rob Gronkowski and his brother's availability, give us a ring at 215-953-4979 on line 5. We have Brian. Brian, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. What is your question for the host?
So my goal for the first quarter is to implement some cost-saving best practices. What suggestions do you have?
Kathy?
I'll throw that to Andy. I don't know how to cut costs. I only spend.
You
Andy.
only spend. Kathy's a spender. I think that the best thing you can do is take a critical analysis of your costs and all of your expenses and decide what isn't necessary for your business moving forward. There could be some shipping costs in there that are getting out of control when you're overnighting things that don't necessarily need to be overnighted. That's one area that you can take a critical look at. You could take a critical look at daily expenses as far as telephone and internet and things like that you could certainly reduce, I'm sure, if you change service providers. There's various things like that.
The one of the big ones, and I feel like lousy saying this, but it's a reality of business, is that you probably some of your biggest cost, if not your biggest cost, is personnel. So if you could analyze the responsibilities of what different people do, and if you identify redundancies, or if you identify areas where perhaps some automation software might serve the same purposes, you can cut costs that
That's
way.
so
Of course,
mean.
it's obviously
was rough.
it's an ethical or decision too, but we're giving cold hard advice, right? So that's something
We're
it's
giving
something to look at.
cold heart advice.
Don't do that.
In SGR, one of my writers did an article one time about cost saving, and they found this company that makes printers that only print things out. So many people basically print something and then they forget they print it and they print it again. And there's all this wasted paper and then the ink and the toner and all of this stuff. And there's this company that does printers where they basically limit the amount of what you can print out to eliminate the redundancies. And the amount of money that the companies were saving on things like paper, because,
And
I have our
toner.
tech guys making fun of me every time they see me at the printer. They're like, who still prints things?
Yeah, that's another
Because-
thing.
yeah.
Don't print things.
We do
What?
because we're editors, but apparently most things, Vinny's looking at me like, yes, in the real world, people do things electronically. And
You still need to print something.
you know what?
Yeah,
And they
come
saw
on.
me at the Xerox machine. They're like, who Xeroxes things?
That,
But there's my
did they
point
see
is,
you at the fax machine too?
I
Because then
they,
that would
think they think it's crazy town that we have a fax machine, by the way. But I think you could get an efficiency expert to come in
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good idea.
and just do a quick, consultation about, where there's some, cost that can be cut. Electric, certainly printers and things like that, just throughout the company.
Yeah, there you go, Brian. Take a look at the everyday stuff and see where some costs can be eliminated. All right, hang on the line so we can get your information. On line 2, we have Karen. Karen, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great, thanks. What is your question for the hosts?
Well, I'm wondering, I'm a business owner, and I'm actually looking to hire a sales rep. So in your opinion, which makes more fiscal sense for me? Should I pay a straight commission, or should I pay a small base and a commission?
Well, the most fiscal sense is is
Commission.
straight commission. If you're just looking at it from a fiscal standpoint, straight commission is going to be the way to go, because then your risk and overhead is nothing, essentially. But that's not always necessarily the best way to go. You don't necessarily get the best salesperson that way, per se. So there's sort of risks and rewards both ways. But if you're looking at it purely from a financial perspective and you want to add a salesperson, that's not going to impact your cost structure tremendously, then that's certainly the way to do it, is by full commission.
That said, though, you've seen a number of studies recently that said that a lot of salespeople are looking for the security of a base, and a lot of times if they have that security, they're gonna stick with you longer to get their business up and running. So while there may be some upfront cost, it may be less expensive actually in the long run, because you're spending less time finding new people to replace the guy who couldn't cut it because he needed some kind of base salary. And so it gives them a bit of security, sets them up to perform better in the long run. So that's something to consider too. It's not always an apples to apples comparison.
And I think the newer generation of salespeople too coming in wants that security, wants that base.
Yes.
And you can also give them a base to start out, and then as they build up their accounts, you can switch them to all commission, because they're probably going to be making a lot of money that way in the end.
And remember,
that's a great point. You can certainly bring somebody on, and your overhead can be one thing at the beginning, and it can change to reduce your cost as time goes on. And the salesperson will actually appreciate that, assuming that they are doing well and adding on a lot of clients, like Kathy was saying.
And of course, I think commission structure then has to evolve too, because you're not going to pay them as high a commission if they're getting a base salary, but if they're on straight commission, then we're going to up that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Karen. Well, hopefully that helps, and good luck with your new hire. Michelle, we have some Facebook comments?
We do. We have a comment from the folks at Brando Guitars who say, do everything in-house, own your own equipment. It allows you to have control over your quality of products and services, which does save you time and money. And then we have comments from, I'm all discombobulated because I was thinking about what's his name. Thank you.
They can see you blushing through the microphone, Michelle.
I know. David Garthwaite says, work with your suppliers. Many have self-promo deals for almost nothing. That's so true. Yep. Ask for NQP or EQP. You would be surprised how often you can get EQP just by asking for it. He's absolutely right.
Yeah,
I think most suppliers are surprised that more distributors don't ask for that. Melanie Avigliano Schultz says, without compromising your products or your staff, what are some top effective ways to cut costs for your business? So I think she's asking without Chris's suggestion of cutting people.
Right.
So
that was my suggestion. I was just saying it's an option.
He's entitled to his opinion. Yeah. It's just wrong.
I think it's bad and immoral, but still.
And Eric Campbell says you can save on marketing by partnering with events that come to you for decorated apparel and accessories. Sacrifice a small amount of your profit to give discounts in exchange for adding your logo to the sponsor's roster on the items. It's a great way to open up the event's audience to your offerings.
Very good. All right, before we head to break, let's take one more call on this topic. We have Stanley on line 1 today. Stanley, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Well, doing really good. And Michelle, don't worry about Ronkowski. The amount of time you're going to take to teach him how to read and write is going to just kill the mood.
She doesn't care about
Thanks,
that.
Stanley. You know me well, Stanley.
She doesn't.
Literacy
She doesn't
is
really
optional
care
with
to
Michelle.
to
Stanley
teach
knows me.
Yeah.
He knows I like deep thinkers.
Yes, exactly. My comment is, hey, look, how long could you possibly stare at the guy? Well, maybe you could stare at the guy for a while. My comment was, we had a Chamber of Commerce out here that they were so proud they balanced their budget, and they were bragging about it. Well, they fired everybody. And to the comment about, killing your staff, then they couldn't grow or do anything because they literally didn't have the personnel to do the work that needed to be done. And they started to rely only on volunteers, and with volunteers, you get what you pay for. And so they almost disappeared. And
but hey, they balanced their budget.
Yeah, exactly. They balanced their budget.
Penny wise, pound foolish, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my question is, or my comment, one of the things that we're trying to do is, we've been trying to figure out the secret of being truly mobile. Not being locked in the office doing research all day. And a couple of us that are friendly competitors, extremely friendly competitors. We've known each other a long, long time. We talked about this a couple weeks ago where we were looking to, share an assistant, and that may not have been a smart idea, but we did find a company that the people would do the mundane things. And so maybe one way to grow is to find staff that isn't necessarily full-time, but it doesn't have to be the type of staff that has to know the industry so well, just to do certain things. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I spoke with somebody actually who their business had doubled last year. They got a couple big accounts, and they owner operator, kind of solo operation, and they hired a virtual assistant. I think might be what you're referring to. Somebody who's not a direct employee of their company, but they pay a fee to handle what you normally think of as administrative tasks, and some of, as you said, the maybe the more mundane functions. And apparently, it's working out pretty well so far. So I think it is certainly an option that can work. If you find that right person.
Right. I think it's a great idea. I think, if you could share staff with certain local partners, I think that's a good idea. I think, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, sharing staff with competitors, I think my view on that was that it could get a little dicey there. But everybody's got their own situation. And if you have a really friendly relationship with what happens to be a competing business, but you're sharing some staff and don't feel like that gets in the way, then yeah, that certainly helps for cost structure purposes. But there's probably other partners that you could have that are interested in looking for the same sort of things that you want, but might not be in direct competition. So certainly it differs by company. But yeah, I think any kind of sharing of staff you can do where you're not adding the full cost of a new person, but you're getting the services of some of that person. I think that works well.
Awesome. Well, I will keep that in mind, and I'll also keep in mind maybe one of Ronkowski's brothers is the smart one, and
Ari's not as good looking. Yeah.
Let's just say don't count on it. All right,
Thanks,
Stanley. Stanley, thanks for the call. Have a good week. All right, we're going to pause now to hear from our show sponsor, ASI Education. But when we get back, we'll talk about how to motivate millennial staffers.
At ASI, we know that education is the key to success, so we're excited to announce our newly reimagined online learning center. Log in and test the all-new intuitive interface. Share photos, stories, and communicate with other ASI members who are learning along with you. Expand your knowledge with wikis, discussion boards, and more than 350 courses, which include valuable marketing and sales information. And for your convenience, the Online Learning Center now uses a single sign-on access like your other ASI services. Best of all, it's free. Become an industry expert and see what's new on the ASI Online Learning Center at www.asicentral.com/online learning.
All right, welcome back to the Tuesday Morning Show, where we've been talking about creative ways to save money for your business. If you have any questions about that or anything else that's on your mind, you can still give us a call at 215-953-4979. In the meantime, Kathy, millennial staffers, they're all over the workplace. How can you motivate them?
All right. Well, they do better in flatter organizations where they can bounce an idea off the CEO.
Okay.
Or any of the higher ups. So give them access to everyone. Make sure they have access to everyone. I think Tim Andrews is actually a very accessible CEO.
For sure.
So that bodes well for our company. Make sure they understand you're listening to them. They want to know that they can contribute ideas. So, welcome their ideas and implement their ideas and let them know that their contributions matter. Don't expect them to solve problems your way. They're great with technology, obviously. They've been Googling things their whole life. So if you cut them loose to figure something out, they may do it faster and more creatively than usual methods. And this is a big one. Let them choose how and when they want to work. If they want to bang out a pile of work in the evening when they're feeling creative, don't chain them to their desks 9 to 5. Let them work from home.
Thank God Joe's not here.
I know.
Joe's head would be exploding.
Yeah.
I think Joe's the only one that's not on board with this right now. And also give them room to be social. You'd expect this advice from these people because their platform is geared for internal collaborations, but they're always connected. So just make sure they have room to be social as well. It's not all work.
I think that point, though, of let them work how they want to work, in Joe Haley's defense, is is difficult for not just many people, but many organizations to get their hands around.
I think it's becoming less and less difficult.
I agree, and
Yes.
I think as more millennials get into the workplace, it will become a little more accepted. But I think it's a struggle between the generations, really, to make that work.
I have no problem with it.
Do you mean
I don't
logistically, like
either.
when people have to have meetings and stuff? Like,
Yes, I think it's part of the DNA of many companies to to schedule things during the day, and obviously, and to look for people at certain points of the day. And if they're not there, or they're because they're going to be working at 9 o'clock at night, that can become a problem.
Well,
if it's part of the culture of the organization, if the organization really has a culture that this is your project and you get it done when you can get it done. Okay,
but that's
then
why you
gonna
schedule
work.
meetings, so they're there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But-
I'm saying
but other than that-
I would love for it to work. I think it's a great way to work. I just think it's very difficult for many companies to accept.
I think that millennials also look at it as a job perk. So that's another thing.
Sure.
Your package when you're offering somebody a job.
Sure.
I think the broader point, because I do feel that in some organizations that level of openness is just not going to be feasible given the type of product you produce or the industry that you're in. But I think it's about not the real takeaway is to not be overly rigid with rules for rules' sake.
Right.
That maybe in 1950s IBM world everybody had to show up with their sock garters on. That's kind of an irrelevant thing. Like it's just don't be. I saw something on History Channel the other night. But just the point is to not be overly rigid with rules that don't really affect productivity.
Exactly.
Right. Do people in your company or your department or wherever it is that you're overseeing really need to be at the office at 9 o'clock?
Right.
Maybe they do. If they're in customer service and calls are coming in, then yes, they do. Or they need to be able to take those calls from somewhere. But I think you're right. Ask yourself, do we have a rule for rule's sake just because everybody always did it that way, or is it there in place because there's a good reason?
And
it's a reasonable question to ask.
Ran an article on telecommuting and advantages, and a bunch of people from Kaiser and Blair, the customer service people, actually work from home.
Yeah.
They take their calls from home.
Right.
So it's feasible. You know what I mean?
the only thing I would say is we had a designer one time who wanted her hours to be from 11 to 7, something like that, which was not feasible because while she was doing things, no one was here to interact with her for the things and when we needed her.
Right. So the bottom line is, if it's feasible and if it's not affecting productivity, in some instances it actually enhances productivity, then do it.
And I think even the bigger takeaway point, as a member of this generation, such as it is, is that we were sort of you're
made the rest of us feel old,
right?
Which we are.
We were kind of raised with like this idea of teachers and everything, be like, oh, give us your feedback, like you're important, you matter, and you could make fun of that, say it's soft, whatever, and it might be, but it's like when I got my first job, like I expected, rightly or wrongly, to be able to like tell the boss what I really thought, and if I had an idea, I wanted to feel comfortable.
And
doing
I think that's
that,
great.
Yeah,
I think that's
that
great.
give and take is can be invaluable for organizations, but they have to be willing to look for it. And I think many places aren't yet willing to look for it because they have that structure in place. But anyway, we got off on a tangent about how to
motivate
work with
Chris.
and motivate people like Chris Rubo.
It's all about me, Kathy. It's all about me.
So we have just enough time for our favorite things. Kathy, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, mine is from Bloomin' Promotions, ASI 40646. Even though it's freezing, spring is coming, and they offer.
Are you sure it's coming?
It is. Even don't worry about the groundhog. They offer the Veggie Pocket Garden. So it's an envelope with cutouts that look like vegetables, and you actually plant them in the ground, and they grow vegetables. So it's really great for spring promotions.
I like that. Can you also plant them in a foot of snow that I have in my backyard?
No, you just hold your horses in.
It'll be March soon.
That's right.
Chris, what do you have?
Mine is from AutoCap, ASI 75420. It's an unstructured soft crown camouflage pattern cap that has that's coated with a wax coating, basically, that makes it weather resistant. It's good for anybody from hunting clubs to outdoor retailers, manufacturers, auto body shops, places like that. The product number is 103-1134, and again, it's from AutoCap.
Very cool. All right, Michelle, you get the last word.
Thank God. I love the last word. This is a product that Andy and I actually saw at the PPI show in Vegas from Foxyware. And I have it on my desk, but forgot to bring it with me. Anyway, Vinny has a photo of it that he's going to post on the website. It's one of those lipstick pens, but the base of it is covered in rhinestones. It's really cool.
Nice.
Very sassy. And they are ASI 87605.
Very cool. You can check out all those products and more on our website at asicentral.com/radio. Unfortunately, we are all out of time for today's show, but thanks for listening. Thanks to our show sponsor, and tune in again next week when we'll get a report from this week's ASI show in Dallas. All right,
and if Gronkowski's listening, give Michelle a call.
Yes.
I heart you. I heart you.
Rob Gronkowski, look up Michelle Bell at
I'm
ASI.
sure he's hungover somewhere.
Have a great week, everybody.